The ADC meta has seen a major shakeup for patch 14.5, while the priority picks in the jungle have shifted drastically as well. Smolder hotfixes have hit live servers as the champion has been excelling in 3 different roles throughout this patch. Welcome back everyone to a brand new tier list update where, with the help of our challenger players and analyzing the most recent data, we strive to bring you guys the most accurate tier list from the majority of ranks. To stay in the loop with the meta throughout Season 14, don't forget to subscribe as the meta constantly evolves, so we have a new tier list update every single week. Also, we're excited to announce we've done a massive update, adding all brand new courses for Season 14 on our website, SkillCapped.com. And if that's not enough, we upload 10 new Smurf commentaries every week where a challenger teaches you how to play every champion in the exact rank you're stuck in. The best part? You can try all this out completely risk-free. If you don't rank up while actively using SkillCapped, you get your money back, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below to get the rank you've always wanted in Season 14. As if this champion wasn't already high priority enough, the 14.5 Smolder changes have taken him to another level. The changes were supposed to be neutral adjustments, but they've turned out to be extremely positive and have provided Smolder with a massive win rate spike for top, mid, and ADC. Riot has gone ahead and issued some hotfix nerfs, but they really haven't done a whole lot in terms of lowering Smolder's power level. E-bolts were reduced from 1 per 50 stacks to 1 per 150 stacks, while R cooldown was increased by 20 seconds at all ranks. So far with these changes on live servers, they've led to about a 1% drop in Smolder's win rate, so it's significant but nothing too massive. Although top lane Smolder is not performing as well as ADC, it's right in behind and still a really great pickup for 14.5. The build that's giving top Smolder so much strength right now is a bruiser setup consisting of Spear of Shojin, Iceborne Gauntlet, and Liandry's. The 14.5 changes were in theory supposed to lessen the strength of these bruiser builds, but analytically that has not been the case at all. Bruiser Smolder is outperforming Crit Smolder for this patch up in the top lane, and it just makes him a much more forgiving and easy champion to execute. The top lane meta over the past few patches has been super strange because it's been these ranged picks like Twisted Fate, Vayne, and now Smolder that have been excelling super hard. TF and Vayne are much weaker for this patch, but now Smolder comes in to take their places as one of the higher priority ranged picks, as you'll find him in the top lane A tier. One of the most strange occurrences we've seen in a while when it comes down to a buff not meeting expectations were the Wukong changes in 14.5. When looking at the analytics, Wukong top lane actually saw a decrease in win rate from 14.4 to 14.5 despite being buffed. Maybe there's some sort of bug going around right now, but it makes no sense at all for the champion to receive what on paper looked like huge buffs and then his win rate literally decreased. One thing that is holding Wukong's win rate back a bit right now is the fact that most players are not taking advantage of Domination secondary. Resolve secondary is most popular, but it's performing very poorly in relation to Domination. Reason for this is because the core build for Wukong right now has him building 3 items that all benefit from Ingenious Hunter. Ingenious Hunter reduces the cooldown of passives and actives, so with Trinity Force, Eclipse, and Sundered Sky as a pretty strong core build for Wukong right now, you really want to be taking advantage of Ingenious Hunter. As for Wukong's tier list placement, we're going to be moving him into the top lane A tier for the mid-patch update. So other than Smolder seeing a massive move up the tier list, the meta is aligned pretty similar to what we had expected. Urgot remains in the OP tier as the best blind pick top lane champion for the majority of ranks. Twisted Fate sees a further push down the tier list for mid-patch as the changes really put a massive dent into his solo queue strength, and he's just not really worth playing now unless you're very proficient on the pick. Same thing goes for Vayne. The early game nerfs to Vayne Q definitely hurt her a ton for top lane as the consistent bully power has been sliced significantly. So other than Smolder, ranged meta in top lane has definitely become quite a bit weaker now, especially if you're in the lower ranks right now. Mundo is a godlike pickup for 14.5. We noted in the pre-patch tier list that he'd be a really great pickup due to the Sunfire and Heartsteel buffs, and he's currently the highest win rate champ for silver and gold elo. The champ falls off a bit when you get up into emerald and above, but overall such a great addition to your champ pool if you're looking to escape any rank below gold. Volibear Jungle has really taken the meta by storm over the past patch, and we'll be seeing a further push up the tier list for mid-patch. Of course, it was the recent direct buffs from last patch that were the driving force leading to Volibear's rise, but as players have started building him optimally, that's helped out a bunch too. We featured Volibear in our OP builds video for 14.5, highlighting how players who build Sundered Sky win so much more on the pick, and as more players have gravitated to that build, the champ's win rate just continues to rise. It's a core of Sundered Sky and Deadman's Plate that is working wonders for Volibear right now, as you get a little bit of everything the champion wants, from sustain to durability and movement speed. Players who rush Iceborne Gauntlet are actually below a 50% win rate for this patch, and it's still the most common first item, while players players that rush Sundered Sky are winning over 54% of the time. So overall, build Volibear correctly, and he's a monster pick, especially for the lower ranks in 14.5, and is being moved into the jungle OP tier. Champions that can take advantage of how powerful Eclipse is right now are performing incredibly well for solo queue, and Lee Sin is one of them. It wasn't until these past 2 patches to where Lee Sin players really started to prioritize the Eclipse rush over Sundered Sky. As more and more have, though, it's led to a pretty big spike in Lee Sin's overall win rate, and Eclipse is now the most common rush item on the champion. It's actually the exact same build that is making Briar super strong right now, with Eclipse into Sundered Sky and either Black Cleaver or Sterix Gauge. The build is perfect because with Eclipse, you have a nice mix of damage and durability that helps you snowball early on, and then you transition into more durable bruiser items to help you survive into the later game team fights. Overall, Lee Sin is in a great spot for solo queue right now and is getting a bump into the S tier for mid-patch. So looking at the jungle tier list, we have a few minor adjustments taking place. The OP tier will now be comprised of 2 champions, with Volibear moving up and joining Briar. If you guys were wondering why Lilia randomly had one of the lowest win rates for any champion at the start of the patch, it was because her AoE was not dealing damage. The bug has been fixed now, so even though Lilia's win rate may appear a lot lower throughout this patch, she's not actually become any weaker and will remain in the A tier. The nerfs to Evelynn and Bel'Veth have hit slightly harder than we anticipated, so we're bumping both champions out of S tier and into A for mid-patch. The Rek'Sai adjustments for this patch weren't quite enough to solidify her as an S tier jungler, so she's being adjusted into the A tier as well. Jarvan, on the other hand, has been finding a lot more success this patch as a result of his buffs, so we'll be moving him into the A tier. Brand nerfs ended up doing absolutely nothing in regards to significantly lowering the champion's solo queue strength, so he's being placed back in the S tier for mid-patch. So moving on to mid lane now, one of the biggest meta-shifting changes for this patch has been the fall of Twisted Fate. TF was a godlike pick for multiple patches in a row, but that has all come to a halt due to the 14.5 nerfs. AD builds are pretty much dead on Twisted Fate now as a result of the E nerfs. Even if you're playing AP Twisted Fate though, he's still quite a bit weaker, as you have to remember the AP builds were actually nerfed a patch before in 14.4. Overall, Twisted Fate is no longer top tier for solo queue and is being moved down into the mid lane B tier for 14.5. Twisted Fate was one of the biggest losers of 14.5, while one of the biggest winners from the mid lane has been Veigar. Buffs to Veigar have seen him gain a good chunk of power, and the champion was also indirectly buffed due to the Storm Surge changes. Going for this very bursty 2-item core of Ludens and Storm Surge is working great for Veigar right now, as it allows him to come online a little sooner as opposed to the Rod of Ages and Archangel's core. Veigar is still nowhere near being a perfect mid lane champion, as his matchups and inability to impact the early game lower his priority, but he's now much stronger than he was in previous patches and is being moved into the mid lane A tier. So for the mid lane tier list in 14.5, we continue to rate Karma as the most OP champ. With how easy it is to pick up Karma and with how strong she is with the current mage items, anybody can start playing the champ and see great success. Smolder is the big talking point of 14.5, as he shot up to being a strong pick in 3 different roles. Our challenger mid laner Shori actually has a full game commentary for Smolder mid on our website if you're looking to pick him up. With mid lane Smolder, it's a little different than what we covered for top lane, as you aren't building Iceborne Gauntlet and instead are going more offensive with Essence Reaver. It's still a pretty durable build overall though, as Spear of Shojin and Liandry's are the 2nd and 3rd pickups. With the buffs he received this patch, Kog'Maw has now shot up to holding one of the highest win rates for any champion in the game. Each buff on their own didn't seem that impactful, but when added all together, they provided Kog with over a 2% boost to his solo queue win rate. Kog'Maw is looking really nice right now with his 2-item core, Blade of the Ruined King and Terminus, as it gives the champion one of the best mid-game spikes. It's likely that Kog'Maw continues to remain quite underrated for a while, so definitely take advantage of him while you can, as he's being placed in the ADC S tier. After riding high as one of the most OP ADCs for multiple patches in a row, Riot killed Twisted Fate in 14.5. The champ definitely needed nerfs, but they've done way more than just lower the champion's power, as Twisted Fate is not worth playing in the ADC role anymore. EAD ratio going from 75 down to 25% was just an incredibly insane hit, and it's clear that by issuing a nerf like this in the first place, Riot doesn't want TF to even exist in the role. If they wanted to keep the champion in a decent spot, they would have only lowered the ratio to 50 or 40%, not all the way down to 25. Despite these nerfs, there are still a bunch of players who are picking TF this patch, but it's really in your best interest not to. You'll find Twisted Fate in our ADC C tier for now, but it's likely within the coming patches he just gets removed entirely. So the big shift in the ADC role for this patch consisted of Vayne and Twisted Fate leaving the OP tier, while Smolder and Senna have taken over. Smolder is without question the most OP ADC based on every metric right now. Win rate, play rate, and ban ban rate are all astronomically high, so there's definitely going to be more changes coming in patch 14.6. If Smolder is open for this patch, he is the pick for ADC. Now, if you're not able to get a hold of Smolder due to his high ban rate, shifting focus towards Senna or Kog'Maw is a really great strategy. As we expected, Senna did not lose very much power at all due to her Q nerf, so we continue to have her rated as an OP ADC. Riot's been trying for so long to lessen the strength of carry Seraphine while increasing the strength of support Seraphine, and they finally made a breakthrough in 14.5. Support Seraphine is finally in a spot to where she's about as good as carry Seraphine, which is not something we've been able to say in a long time. There were a ton of changes this patch, but in short, Riot increased a lot of the base values on Seraphine's spells and buffed up a bunch of stats in the early levels, while lowering the AP ratios and the strength of her spells at the later levels, which has been extremely positive for support Seraphine. It's just way harder to achieve levels and bring in gold as a support, so more base value on spells and more strength in spells at earlier levels is always going to be a great trade-off for less strength and ratios. Overall, support Seraphine is back to being a good solo queue pick for the first time in a long time and is being moved up to the A tier for 14.5. So with the changes in 14.5, we have a bit of a new look to the support OP tier. Maokai dominated and stood alone as the only OP tier pick for multiple patches, but that is no longer the case. With that being said, even after being nerfed for 2 patches in a row now, we were correct in our prediction that Maokai would remain an OP support. The nerfs just didn't hit quite hard enough to warrant a push down the tier list, and even though he's not the super broken pick that he was in previous patches, he's still higher priority than 99% of supports. All we're doing is moving a few supports up into the OP tier to join Maokai, as Blitzcrank and Janna are in and around the same power level as Maokai now. Other than that, guys, it was a rather uneventful patch for the overall support meta. Even though Riot nerfed Solstice Slay and buffed Dreammaker, the majority of enchanters continue to underperform, while mages and melee supports are on top. If you truly want to improve and rank up fast, head on over to SkillCapped.com. We just finished a massive update adding all brand new courses for Season 14. We even upload 10 new Smurf commentaries each week where a challenger teaches you how to play every champion in the exact rank you're stuck in. And remember, you can try all this out risk-free. If you don't rank up while actively using SkillCapped, you get your money back, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below to get the rank you've always wanted this season. So that's going to be all for our 14.5 mid-patch tier list update. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and we'll see you back soon.